you come and join me again. Hey, thanks ever so much, and it's glad to have your company. I am for Nice Out in It, Series 2. We hope to bring you lots and lots of different places to go that you can have a nice day out on a really cheap budget. But first of all, we are in the city of Bradford, and that's City Hall. It's very much like Sheffield City Hall and Barnsley Town Hall, although, wait a minute, if we're talking about the seat of local government, that isn't Barnsley anymore. Barnsley Council have done a moonlight, and yet Barnsley Town Hall and Bradford City Hall here have got a lot in common. Do you want to find out why and why it's worth coming here to have a look around? Follow me and I'll show you something you'll be absolutely amazed. And this is inside the Police Museum now. It's a wonderful place. It's airy, it's light, and it's got lots of things that you can see. But let's point you in the right direction. Martin Baines, director, thanks very much for inviting us here.
Oh, you're very welcome,
This, while not being a unique museum, is at least quite rare to find something like this, isn't it?
There aren't too many police museums up and down the country, and the wonderful thing about this one is that we're stood here in this room, which is the actual Victorian parade room, where the bobbers used to come on and parade for duty.
It was like being in the forces, wasn't it?
Very much
everything
so, yeah.
Clean and everything in its place and a place for everything.
Exactly, Dave.
And woe betide you.
Precisely. And where we're stood now, they come parade for duty, produce the truncheons and the handcuffs, and then they go out of that door over there, out into the streets of Bradford. So the unique thing about this museum is that we've got this room here, the gallery, which is the old parade room. We've also got the old Victorian cells here in City Hall, which lead up to the Victorian courtroom.
I remember it well.
Yes. So
not from from an acting point of view, folks, not from...
Yeah. So the wonderful thing is, Dave, that people can come to the museum and they can take a walk through history and find themselves back in the 19th century as they go into the cells and up into the court. And then come in here and look at some of the key moments of policing history in Bradford over the last 200 years.
And this, of course, I'm noticing here, there's things right throughout, because, I mean, we start off with very Victorian-looking handcuffs. Now, they do look a little bit menacing.
Oh, they are a bit menacing, Dave, and if you had them clipped on your wrists, you'd certainly know you were under arrest. And we've also got the old Victorian lamps here, because originally...
They're going from almost like oil lamps right through to electric ones.
They are. And one or two here were actually used during the Second World War.
Right.
During the bombing of Bradford. They were used by the police and the ARPs. But the big one here in the middle was used by the night watchman in the 18th century. Gentlemen who used to go around checking the doors.
Make sure all is well.
Exactly.
Yes. I'll tell you what frightens me, though. You mentioned truncheons, but knuckle dusters?
Well, these are items that have been taken from criminals.
Right.
There's also shillelagh, and this nasty-looking thing here, which was used to cost somebody, no doubt.
It looks really awful. And I've always associated policemen with whistles, but you've got a rattle, or is it a rattle? Am I looking at...
It is a rattle, and it's very similar to the football rattles that we used to find at football matches when we were young. But it was used to attract attention by night watchmen and constables in the 19th century.
Attract other people saying there is trouble here, you mean, that sort of thing?
Yes. And also they used to tap the nightsticks on the floor to summon assistance. And it wasn't actually until the 1850s that whistles came along.
Right.
And then whistles stayed as police uniform for well over 100 years.
Right.
And interestingly, they're not carried today. So when police radios came on board, they tended to die off, and people stopped wearing whistles.
Right. They were out of date, weren't they?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit.
Radios work over a longer distance, don't they? Right. You have a look at this now. We've described it. You have a look at it. We're going to move on to another exhibit, and we'll tell you about that later. Okay, so we're going to leave you to it for a bit. Now, we've moved on a little bit further into the museum, and to be honest, you won't need to look away but there is some things that deal with ruffians and vagabonds here, isn't there? And that's where we are now, because I see before me a case full of truncheons.
Absolutely, David. You'll see some wonderfully decorated truncheons.
They couldn't use those in Norway. Were they
Well,
just ceremonial?
No, they
Oh,
actually use them. But of
wow.
course, in the 19th century, they used to paint the names of the police stations where they actually worked onto the truncheons.
Right.
And some of them are wonderfully decorated. If you look at the one in the
Works
middle
of
there,
art.
wonderful. Quite beautiful, really. And, of course, this one here was the Chief Constable's truncheon.
Yes, that would be a ceremonial. I can't see a chief constable
is.
going out
It
and
is.
threatening.
It is.
I mean, obviously they were used to quell violence, but I bet the sight of a 6-foot bobby threatening you with that would tend to make you come quietly.
I think it would, and I think to bear in mind that truncheons were rarely used.
Yeah.
And certainly in my time in the police,
Behaviour was different, wasn't it?
It was very different.
Even thieves and vagabonds,
exactly,
their behaviour
exactly.
was different.
And very often the sight of a truncheon quelled the disorder, and if it didn't, of course, they would have been
to use
used,
it,
and that's exactly how it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best be good, lads and girls.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Moving on slightly. Now, this one here, this is because you have got actual murder weapons here, haven't you? I know it's a bit, if you're squeamish, don't worry, we're not going to show you a lot, but there are murder weapons kept here in this gallery, aren't there?
Yes, David, we have. We've got some murder weapons that were involved in murders here in Bradford. But we've also got some very interesting fingerprints. It's a little known fact that, in fact, the first use of fingerprint evidence outside London was in Bradford.
Right.
In the early 1900s. And interestingly, that was pioneered by a chap called Oliver Cromwell. I mean, would you believe that, Dave, really?
I would, actually, because I know it is actually a common name is Cromwell.
Very, very interesting. And legend has it, rumour has it, that he was in fact related to the original.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that one, but certainly he was a real pioneer of fingerprint evidence, and became a key expert and wrote a book on it.
Right, okay. You have a look at it while we're talking, and we're going to move on to a time when even the police were tested. That's at the time of the Second World War. We're moving on to that. We'll let you look at this for a minute, and then come and join us, won't you? Now, this part of the exhibition in the gallery that we've come to is at a time when not only the forces, but the public, and particularly the police on the home front, were in danger. World War II. Tell me about it, because some of this stuff looks quite interesting, to say the least.
Well, yeah, we have some items here from that covered Bradford during the Second World War. The bombing of Bradford, we've got the Chief Constable's ARP helmet and his gas mask. But over there, we've also got a piece of a German bomber that was shot down over Bradford in 1941. The crew bailed out, they were arrested and brought down to the cells at City Hall here before they were taken to prisoner of war camps. But there's some small fragments from the bomber that you can see there.
Yeah.
But we've also got some items here from the First World War. These weapons here...
Oh, crikey, they look a bit vicious.
Well, they do, and people sometimes think these were used by criminals, but actually they were trench weapons that were used by Bradford police officers during the First World War.
Easier to fight with cudgels in the trenches than rifles.
Very much so. And they're all homemade. If you have a look at them carefully, you can see that they're homemade.
They were meant to do serious damage, weren't they? Yeah. And you've also got medals. Are they police medals?
They are. They're police medals, and given for service during the Second World War. And we also had an awful lot of special constables, and during the First World War we had what was called the reserve police. These were ex-military men that were brought in to assist the police at that time. And you can see photographs of them in the cabinet.
Indeed.
Yes.
Well, I'm not going to show you all the gallery, girls and boys, because you're going to have to come and see it yourself. What we'll do in a minute is we'll go and we'll look at the inspector's room where all the paperwork was done. But I want to talk to you, Martin, now about the museum itself. How long has it been going?
Well, the museum's only been open just under a year. We're coming up to our first year of opening. And as you can see, we're developing the museum all the time. But it's been tremendously successful, and people have come along in large numbers to see what we do. And we're delighted to see visitors. We're open every Friday and every Saturday. So, you know, we would suggest people come along and have a look at some of the things here.
Yeah. And it's well worth a visit, folks, I can tell you that. So what we'll do is now we'll move on from the gallery into the inspector's room, and we'll show you how an inspector's room used to look in the 19th century. Well, we've seen the gallery now with Martin. I'm going to come and show you one of the restored rooms that there is. Now, it looks tatty. That's because it was tatty back in the olden days. And we're going to talk to Margaret Gray this time. Margaret, thank you very much indeed. Now, you might see us greeting one another as old friends, and that is because we are. In another life, many, many years ago, Margaret and I did a programme together on radio here in Bradford. Now here we are doing television, so I suppose it's a step up, isn't it, Margaret?
It is indeed, David.
Margaret, this room looks fabulous. What is it and what used to happen here?
Well, originally it would be where the officers wrote the reports and where the inspector in charge of the charge office would do his work also. It is what you can say tatty really, but that's how it was left and that's how we would like it to remain. But if you can think back to when it was built in 1873, there'd be no electric lights, it would be gas. If you were lucky.
Yeah.
There'd be no central heating. In fact, central heating, and that didn't come till 1900s. You know, so it would be cold. They would probably have a
Coke stove or something.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, we've got one ready to go in at some stage or other.
Constantly developing the museum.
Well, that's it. Yes, this is one of the rooms that does need redeveloping. But here we've got some of the gear that you know. This was every officer's friend.
The cape, the cloak, that's the name. Cape, is it cape? Yeah.
I mean, it does weigh an awful lot.
Can I try it?
Of course you can.
So, it just goes over.
Okay. Right.
How about that?
Okay, and that. Are we going back to Jack Warner?
The trouble is, we remember Jack Warner, don't we, love?
That's right. But
So-
you see, it kept the cold out.
I'll tell you what, I'll bet this will keep the rain off as well, won't it?
For about 8 hours, it'll hold some rain. But
yeah.
I tell you some secrets as well, Dave.
You're in on this.
The policemen used to call and get the fish and chips and put it in the pocket, you see.
No bottle of brown ale.
Well,
though.
I don't know about that.
We'll
I
not
don't know about that. I wasn't a policeman.
leave it to their imagination. That's wonderful. And it just, well, I mean, there's room to move in it. I believe if I could still run, I could run in this. But
Oh,
it's
yes.
very loose, isn't it?
Yes.
You can see whoever designed that knows
Well, you see,
what
if
a
you were stood
policeman
in a
needs.
shop
Yeah.
doorway, David,
Yeah.
they couldn't see you. And
Tell you what, let's have a look and see what you've got, because I do see you've got some modern appliances here.
Oh,
Now, for instance,
definitely.
you've got a telephone
Oh, definitely.
and a typewriter. So what difference would that make to the officer working in here?
everything was handwritten. If you look in some of these books,
Yeah.
they're beautifully handwritten.
Oh, that's
You see,
amazing.
your records weren't typed up in
Yeah,
those days.
and you've got a photo, sort of like, as it were, photographs of them now. That was at a time when it was just coming in, wasn't
Well,
it?
photographic photographs or cameras came in about 1845 to 50s.
Yeah. Well, there you are, boys and girls. I hope that you've enjoyed this trip round the police museum. I'll tell you what, I'm going to nip out now while the crew are packing up and take a few shots around Bradford. Hey, that was good, wasn't it? I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. You can spend a whole day here. And if you don't want to spend a whole day, well, there's the National Media Museum and there's the big Alhambra Theatre as well, and lots of good pubs and eating places in Bradford. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to go now and I'm going to take some more shots of it so you can see what it's like. I'm not going to take the crew, they can pack up and do all the rough stuff. Well, I get all the glory, can't they? Barry, you better take this.
Now then, lad. Now then. Whoa, what we've got here, kid?
Oh, officer, this is a camera and it takes moving shots of people walking about and it's all in colour. How about that?
A camera?
Yes.
A camera? Queen Victoria herself wouldn't have one of them lot. You're Nick. Come with me.
Look, officer, it's my birthday.
Happy birthday, kid. Come with me. You're Nick, lad. Get it now. Right, lad, come with me.
Look, somehow I've got stuck in the time warp. Help me, I'm stuck in a time warp.
You're stuck in here now,
Oh.
kid. Now then, it'll go back in if you don't obey.
Yes, sir.
Stand still, kid, and
Yes.
listen to what the inspector's got to say today.
I will, sir.
Now then, officer, what have you arrested this man for?
Oh.
Well, sir, I found this lad in this right brightly coloured shirt,
Oh.
and he was carrying this thing round with him, and he says it's a time warp.
A time warp?
Aye,
It records things and you can watch it afterwards.
records things, I said to him, sir. I said, records things? Queen Victoria has said I've got one of these, and that's the item, sir.
It's nothing to do with black magic, I promise.
That's
It's
the
my
one.
responsibility to decide whether I feel that the officer is justified
That's not fair,
in arresting you or not. This is something that I've not come across before and I think it needs further investigation. So you will be detained until the investigation is completed and then we will decide whether you are going to go to court straight away or straight to prison.
How long will that take?
Calm down, lad, calm down. Look at the officer.
Sorry.
That will take as long as it takes.
Thank
You will be here until the enquiries are complete.
Okay.
Now then, full name?
David. Oh, I can't even use David, can I? David Hodgson.
Age?
Do I have to?
Yes.
72.
Date of birth?
11/10/43. No, that's 1943, of course, I'm in the title.
Yes. Where were you born?
Heckmondwike, I'm proud of it.
Just record his height, officer, will you?
Right, Matron, come and record this lad's height. Right, lad. Stop whimpering and blubbering, lad.
I'll see you later.
Right, birthday lad.
Come on, do something to help.
Get your set up a bit, Matron.
There. Step forward.
Settle down, lad.
5'10".
5'10", medium build, wearing an orange shirt, bright orange shirt, black trousers, black shoes. Come and empty your pockets on here.
Step forward,
Why
lad.
aren't you helping me? Here. What the heck's that?
Never mind, lad, you know where you got that. Down there, lad, so we can see you.
What's all I've got?
Well,
Wear spectacles, brown eyes. Have you any marks or tattoos or scars?
No, sir.
Has he been properly searched?
Yes, sir. And he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 safety.
What does that mean?
And he's got a frippy bit.
Right, it's time for the court to decide.
Oh.
You will be detained and taken straight to court. Have you anybody anybody at home that you want informing that you're here?
No, sir.
Right, take him away.
I will, sir. Right, lad. Happy birthday indeed. Come with me.
David Hodgson, you appeared before court here with this ridiculous apparatus, wearing that ridiculous costume. What evidence do we have against this man?
Sir, whilst outside the town hall, I was walking on my beat and I saw this individual dressed in this ridiculous attire. Also, sir, I saw him pointing a strange device. This is the device that I took from this man to be used in evidence in this court, sir.
Careful with me camera.
I asked this person, I said, what is that you've got there? And he said it's a wizardry thing, sir. A wizardry thing indeed, sir. Something that even the Queen wouldn't have, sir. Something that Queen Victoria would never have. It takes moving coloured pictures of people walking around. It does, sir. This is what this man told me. And here is the evidence, sir, before this court. I arrested this man, sir. I did indeed. And I took him into the custody area where he has been sorted and seen to by the inspector, sir. I did indeed, sir. Wizardry indeed, sir, I said to him. Wizardry indeed, sir.
What do you have to say for yourself?
As I've been trying to explain all the time, I'm stuck in a time warp, you see. I'm supposed to be in 2015, not 1897.
Silence! Silence! I've heard quite enough of this nonsense. You'll be taken down and remanded in custody until further notice, while further inquiries are made. Take him down.
There you go.
Oh, the cells are friendly. Oh, the prisoners are friendly.
Right, lad, in you go. Get your
I don't want to go in there.
In there. Go on, lad. Happy birthday.
Oh, what on earth am I in? Just look at the state of this place. How am I supposed to sleep on? Yeah, 3 days? My goodness, I don't think I'll last 3 minutes. But I'm going to after, boys and girls. All I can do is just sit and hope that this time warp sorts it out. Well, boys and girls, I'm afraid that's it. No more programme today. Bayek. I hope I'm out in time for programme 2, don't you? Bye-bye, everyone.